Hello everyone, this is Just a Dad. Today I'm going to show you how to make an iced coffee or a brew over ice with the Ninja CFP301 DualBrew Pro coffee maker. So this thing will do, it's got a full 12 pot coffee and you can do K-cups. So if we look here in the brew style, we've got classic, rich. We're going to talk about over ice today. Now I can do an over ice into my glass carafe, or I can brew it right into a tumbler. I can use the K-cup to do an over ice, or I can use the coffee. I can put a filter here, put my coffee grounds in, and do over ice, but that's for like larger quantities. Or if you want to do smaller quantities, that's fine too. So first, we're going to do an over ice with a K-cup. So let me explain. So when I've got the K-cup in, we're in ounces. So when I go to over ice, even though that says 12 ounces, that's the container you want to put it in. Normally when it says 12 ounces, it will brew exactly 12 ounces. But when you're brewing over ice, in the 12 ounce, it's only going to brew 6 ounces. They want to take into account the ice. So the coffee coming out is going to be hot. You're going to fill this full of ice. By the time, this is a 14 ounce tumbler. So if I fill this full of ice, it's going to brew 6 ounces of over ice. That gives you enough for a 12 ounce container. So even though it says 12 ounces, it doesn't brew 12 ounces of coffee into here. So you have to think of it a little different. Like when you're doing over ice, what's the container size I'm going to be using? And whatever container size you're using, fill it up with ice and you'll end up with that container size of over ice. Okay, I'm gonna put the carafe right down here. Make sure that's not hot, the warming plate. Let's put our K-cup in. You can use any K-cup, whatever flavor you like. Make sure your brew style is on over ice, and you're simply just gonna press over ice. Press the brew button. Now, I've done some measurements. When it's on a 12 ounce setting, it brews 6 ounces of coffee. And it brews it at a little bit lower temperature. It starts out around 180, 185, and then it kind of steps its way down to 170. So it doesn't brew the K-cup as hot when you do a coffee. When this is on just a normal brew, it brews it around 200 degrees. That's to help prevent so much ice melting. And it kind of pauses too. So it'll brew a little bit, it pauses, it brews a little bit, then pauses. And they also take into consideration, a lot of people put milk in with their iced coffees, which I do too. It really helps the taste. And I put a little French vanilla syrups. This is the sugar-free. It tastes really good. Okay. So there's the K-cup iced coffee, 12 ounces. It only brewed 6 ounces into that. So I had about just a little under a quarter cup of milk. It really helps with the flavor. Then I add about 2 tablespoons of this French vanilla. And I just measure it like this. 1, 2. Stir that up. You can add a little bit more ice, but you'll be surprised. It's actually a pretty cold drink right now. Even though we brewed hot coffee into it, we're down around the 38, 35, 37, so that's pretty good. I'll put a link to these tumblers in the show description notes. I really like them. That's a very good iced coffee. I might have added just a little bit too much milk, but it tastes delicious. So adding the milk and the sugar, the French vanilla syrup, kind of gets rid of the bitter taste to the coffee. But that's a really good coffee and it's a nice cold drink. So again, we can brew over ice with the coffee filter too. So just put your paper filter or reusable filter in, put your coffee in, slide that closed, it changes to coffee. Now let's do over ice. Even so, see the ounces stays the same. And again, that's gonna take into account the ice. So amazingly, I can brew a full pot of over ice. It takes a lot of ice, but you can fill that completely full of ice. And then if you select the full pot, it won't overflow. It knows that it's going to be full of ice, and it brews just the right amount. And it's kind of intelligent that it knows it's over ice, so it doesn't turn the warming plate on. When you're in over ice, it keeps the warming plate from coming on, even though you're using a carafe. But this can get a little confusing just because when you're in the coffee mode, it brews so many different sizes. You know, it brews 2 different sizes of travel mugs, 2 different sizes of mugs, and small mugs. But if you just keep into account, if you're over ice, fill your container, whatever container you're using, put it full of ice. So if you're using a half carafe, just fill this halfway full of ice. Don't fill it full of ice. So whatever amount you're brewing, fill that amount full of ice. And then you just use the tablespoon chart for whatever you're brewing. So, and to do a 12 ounce, like we did a K-cup there. So to do a 12 ounce extra large cup would take 2 to 3 tablespoons of coffee, which amazingly a K-cup holds 2 tablespoons of coffee. And it does, when you're over ice, it brews the coffee at just a little bit lower temperature because it doesn't want to melt that ice so fast. Otherwise, when you're in a classic brew, it brews at 200 degrees. This machine is very capable and has lots of possibilities. So thanks everybody for watching. This was just a quick video on how to brew over ice. It's a very popular drink right now, and this makes a very good over ice drink. Thanks everybody for watching.